Good afternoon, students. I am Dr. Nidhi Mishra, tutor in pathology. This is your first practical class in which I am going to introduce you to histopathology and cytopathology along with tissue processing. So, what are the learning objectives for this practical? So, by the end of the session today, you should be able to describe the branches of pathology. You should be able to describe what is histopathology. You should be able to enumerate various specimens that we receive for histopathological study. You should be able to describe in brief about frozen section, that what is frozen section and when it is used. You should be able to describe the steps of tissue processing and various type of tissue processes. You should be able to describe what is ideal fixative and enumerate various type of fixatives that are used. You should be able to name the various dehydrating agents, clearing agents, embedding medias, different type of microtomes. Then you should be able to define what is cytopathology and describe its role in clinical care. You should be able to enumerate the specimens we receive for cytopathological examination, and you should be able to describe the advantages and disadvantages of FNSC. So what is pathology? Pathology comes by joining two words, pathos and logos. Logos means to study and pathos stands for a disease or understanding of a disease process. So pathology means study of disease. Now what are the branches of pathology? So mainly we have 7 branches: general pathology, clinical pathology, cytopathology, surgical pathology, immunology, molecular pathology, and genetics. Out of these 7 branches, first 4 branches which I have highlighted are the main branches which we deal in our hospital. Now what is histology? So histology is nothing but microscopic study of normal tissue. So before knowing what is abnormal, you should know what is normal, how a tissue looks normally. Once you know what is the normal histology, then only you will be able to identify the pathology. So here you can see in this picture, this is a microscopic picture of thyroid gland, where you can see you have colloid in the center, which is pinkish color or eosinophilic material, and it is surrounded by these flattened type of thyroid follicular epithelial cells. So this is the normal histology of thyroid gland. Now what is histopathology? So histopathology is microscopic study of abnormal or a diseased tissue. So when you see this picture which is down, you can see there is some amount of normal thyroid follicles over here, but here this complete area, it is abnormal. It is not very much similar to the one which we have seen in the above figure. So this is an abnormality, which in this case was papillary carcinoma thyroid. So histopathology is microscopic study of abnormal or a diseased tissue. Coming to cytology, cytology is microscopic study of individual cell in smears. Here the tissue is not there, we are examining the cells in the smears. So there are mainly two types of cytology smears. One is FNSC, another one is exfoliative cytology. Now we'll start what is cytopathology. So cytopathology is a branch of laboratory medicine which is concerned with examination of cells in health and disease for screening and diagnostic purpose. Screening involves examination of samples from asymptomatic individual to detect pre-malignant or early malignant changes. So when you are performing any cytological study on asymptomatic patient, it is called as screening. Now what are the type of cytology samples we received? So first one is exfoliation. Exfoliation means cell samples which are exfoliated naturally from the epithelial surface. So whatever epithelial surface is there, if the cells are shedded naturally, it is called as exfoliation or exfoliative specimen. The most common example is sputum or urine sample, or you can have a nipple discharge sample. Then second type of sample is abrasion, in which we obtain the cell by physical force. For this, the most common example is pap smear, in which we take a spatula, and with the help of the spatula we scrap some amount of material from the cervix, both ecto and endo cervix, and we examine it for the screening purpose or for the pre-malignant and malignant lesions. So that is called as abrasion. So example is, one is your pap smear, another one is bronchial brush. Third type is aspiration. Third material which we are getting is by aspiration. So what is aspiration? It is nothing but the material we obtained by applying a negative pressure with the help of a needle syringe. It is most common practice we do in cytology, and examples are FNAC and fluid aspiration from cavities. Now what are the applications of FNAC? So FNAC is routinely used for diagnosis of palpable mass or lesion in organs like lymph node, thyroid, salivary gland, breast. So if any patient is coming to a clinician and he's asking or he's telling that I am having a lump over the hand or over the ear or in the limb or in thyroid, or if any female patient is coming with a history of lump in the breast, the first thing the clinician will do is he'll ask for a FNAC. Next is for deep seated organs like liver, kidney, guided FNACs are done. So if there is mass within these organs, you have to do a USG or CT guided aspiration. Then for intraoperative imprint cytology, many a times surgeon, because of some adhesion or because of any reason, they are not able to take out the organ which they want to remove during the surgery, but for the confirmation whether it's malignant or not, they will take an imprint directly on the table itself. That is called as intraoperative imprint, and that is again very useful. Then next is for cytogenetics, and as I told you many times, for cervical cancer screening we use pap smear. Now what are the equipments need? We need a needle. It should be around 23 to 24 gauze and has to be around 3 to 5 centimeter in length. We need a syringe, 10 to 20 ml syringe is required. We need clean dust free slides. We need fixative solution if we want to wet fix the slides. Coming to the procedure, first of all we have to explain the procedure to the patient, that what we are going to do to him. We'll get his consent and cooperation. Important thing in consent is you have to explain the procedure and get the consent in the local language. So if the patient is a Gujarati patient, you have to explain the procedure completely, what you are going to do to the patient in Gujarati language, and you have to take the permission in Gujarati. Similarly, if the patient is coming from a Hindi background, you have to take a consent in Hindi after properly telling the patient about the procedure in Hindi. The procedure of FNAC is usually carried out with the patient lying in a supine position, and most important thing is disinfection, which has to be done with the help of a spirit swab. Now this is just a diagrammatic representation of how an FNAC is done. So you can see over here, this is our swelling. This is our swelling over the skin. We have taken one needle and it is inserted into the swelling. Once it is inserted into the swelling, we have applied a negative pressure. The plunge has been put outside, so a negative pressure is applied. Then the needle is moved like this in to and fro motion for around 10 to 15 times, and after that the needle is removed. Once the needle is removed, whatever material we got in the needle or the hub is expressed on the slide. Another slide is taken, it is pressed over the first slide, and we made a smear by just putting the two slides against each other. So this is how our smear is prepared. Now depending upon what fixative you are going to use, it could be dry fixed or it could be wet fixed. So again, this is a procedure in which you can see the first one here, the site of FNAC. It should be cleaned first by the spirit swab. Next they are doing is they are gently introducing the needle, and then they are applying a negative suction. Then after 12 to 15 to and fro motion, they will take out the needle. The air is taken in the syringe and needle is reattached, and the material is expressed on the slide, and with the help of another slide a smear is made. So this is how FNAC procedure is done. Now we have two processes of smearing. One is direct smearing, which I told you just now, that once the material is taken on a slide, a second slide is taken, it is gently pressed on the first slide and two slides are pulled apart to form a smear. As you can see in this figure A, they have mentioned between two slides, you put a drop or the material over the one slide, use another slide, gently press it and just pull apart the two, it will form a smear. Then we have indirect smearing, in which if we are getting more amount of sample, for example if you are getting any fluid or any cystic swelling, so usually we will get more sample. So what we will do is, we will centrifuge that sample, we will discard the supernatant, and whatever sediment is there, we will take a drop of sediment, keep it on a slide, and again we will form a smear like we did in a direct method. So this is indirect smear. Cell block preparation, sometimes we get multiple tissue fragments during FNAC. So these fragments, they are directly transferred into 5 to 10% of neutral buffered formalin, and then they are processed in histopathology as paraffin blocks. That is very much helpful when you want to know about the morphology of the cell and you want to go ahead with IHC. Coming to fixation, as I told you, the slides we got from FNAC or from the indirect smearing could be either dry fixed or wet fixed. Dry fixed means once you have made or prepared the smear, just keep the slide at the room temperature and allow it to dry spontaneously. That is called as air dried. For that type of slides, we used MGG stain. Then there is something called as wet fixation, in which you put, after preparing the smear, you put the slide in a fixative. Most common fixative which we use in our department is alcohol, isopropyl alcohol. So that is called as wet fixation. So if you want to go HNE stain or PAP stain, the slide has to be fixed in a alcohol or a fixative. So what are the various fixatives used? Methanol, ethanol, propranolol and isopropanol. So then you will stain the slide and it will be mounted and ready for examination. Now what are the complications of FNAC? So vasovagal syncope is the most common complication of FNAC, where the patient suddenly collapse after the procedure. It is mainly because of the fear. Patient underwent sudden hypertension because of the vagal shock. So what we do is, we just make the patient to lie down on a bed. We just raise the we just lower the head end and raise the legs of the patient so that the circulation to the brain improves. And if needed, if the patient went into bradycardia, we can give atropine. Sometimes if the patient is still having hypotension, we can give IV fluids also. Next is local infection. So that's why the importance of disinfection is must. You have to disinfect the skin thoroughly before doing any procedure on the patient. Then in case of internal organs, if there is mass in the lung and you are doing a CT guided FNAC, there are chances of hemorrhagic complications like bleeding, hematoma formation, embolization and pneumothorax. Then in certain tumors, if you are doing an FNAC, there are chances of dissemination through the needle tract or natural cavity. These things are more commonly seen in testicular tumors. Now what are the advantages of FNAC? So it's a very simple procedure, easy to perform, can be done on OPD itself. It's rapid procedure, very less traumatic, quite painless. It's very economical. You don't need any anesthesia. You don't need any hospitalization for superficial swellings. Reporting is very quick with high accuracy rate, and it eliminates the need of more complicated diagnostic tests. What are the disadvantages? So the applicable to lesions that are easily localized, and the accuracy is doubtful when the target lesion is missed. So example, if there is a swelling which is solid and cystic, you have tried to insert the needle in that swelling, but unfortunately you went into a cystic area. So what you got is only fluid, you didn't got any cell. So that time your accuracy will be doubtful. So that is one of the disadvantages of FNAC. Now what are the limitations? So first limitation is, only a small population of cells are sampled during the procedure. So most of the swellings which are coming for FNAC are more than 2 centimeter in size. So out of that 2 centimeter, you are getting only very few cells from that area. So the population of cell as compared to size of the lesion is very small. So the reliability of the test will depend upon the adequacy of the sample. Next is an inadequate sample which is not representative of the true lesion can result in false negative diagnosis. As I told you earlier, if the patient is having a solid and cystic swelling, and if you are inserting the needle in the cystic area, you might not get the proper cells. So there are chances that you may give a false negative result because you have missed the solid swelling. Third thing is we need proper clinical information. We need the size of the lesion, site of the lesion, character of the mass. We need proper investigation like USG finding, X-ray findings, CT findings, MRI findings. If anything is available, we need those reports which will help for the interpretation of our aspiration.